Birthdays never mattered much to me. I was never one to throw parties or make a big deal of turning another year older. But that year, Emma insisted. "You work too much," she said. "You never do anything for yourself." And maybe she was right. I'd been pulling longer hours at the firm, skipping lunches, shaving minutes off commutes just to make time move faster. Maybe I thought if I worked hard enough, it would keep everything else standing. Emma handled all the planning. She said she wanted it to be simple, just close friends, food, and music in the backyard. Nothing flashy, she promised, and it wasn't. It was nice, subtle, the kind of gathering where people wear rolled-up sleeves and bring homemade pasta salad in Tupperware. The sun had just started dipping below the neighbor's fence by the time I stepped outside, and I'll admit, she did a good job. There were fairy lights strung through the trees, the kind that always made her smile in those Pinterest photos she showed me. A folding table was covered with a white linen sheet and paper plates, mismatched but charming. A couple friends from work were chatting by the grill, and some of her new co-workers, the ones from the marketing agency, had claimed the corner near the patio. I didn't know them well. They seemed nice, though, laughing, relaxed. I was halfway through greeting everyone when Emma came outside, balancing a chocolate cake in her hands like it was a crown jewel. She looked good. Really good, if I'm honest. Not in a try-hard way, just put together. Her dress had the soft floral pattern she usually saved for weddings, and her hair was done differently, a little curl at the ends. She kissed me on the cheek and said, "Make a wish." I didn't say what I wished for. You never do, right? Everyone gathered around as I cut the first slice. That's when she said it, casually, like it was nothing. "You know," she laughed, tilting her head toward one of her co-workers. "Sometimes husbands are only useful for taxes." The group laughed, loudly. Even I forced a laugh, mostly out of instinct. I think I even said, "Guess I'm doing my job then," or something equally self-deprecating. But it hit me weird. Not the joke itself, we joked like that all the time, but the timing. The way she said it so quickly, like she had rehearsed it, like it was meant to get a laugh out of someone specific. That's when I saw him. Troy. He was standing behind her, slightly off to the left, holding a red cup and grinning in that too confident way some guys wear like cologne. I'd only met him once before, at the agency's holiday mixer. Emma had introduced him as Troy from Creative. Back then, he'd shaken my hand too softly and made a joke about how married life must be like vacation with paperwork. But now he was looking at her, really looking, and not like a guy hearing a funny line. There was something in his face, admiration maybe, or something heavier, something quieter and more dangerous. His eyes stayed locked on her just a second too long. And Emma, she must have felt it too because she glanced toward me, then looked down, adjusted her hair. I didn't say anything. Maybe I should have. The party carried on like parties do. People brought out wine, moved chairs closer together, paired off into conversations. Emma moved easily between groups, laughing, refilling drinks, resting her hand on someone's arm as she told a story. I stayed near the grill, talking to Sam about the new project our team was working on, but part of my mind kept drifting, tracking her, watching her. There was nothing obvious, no lingering touches, no stolen glances that I could call out, just moments, too many of them. Every now and then I'd see her standing a little too close to Troy, or laughing a little too hard at something he said. And every time I looked at him, he looked away. By 10, people started saying their goodbyes. Emma hugged nearly everyone. I noticed that she didn't hug Troy, but as he turned to leave, he said something in her ear that made her smile. Not her usual wide smile, but the kind she used to give me across crowded rooms. Small, just at the corners. When the last guest left, Emma started cleaning up. I offered to help, but she waved me off, saying, "Go relax, birthday boy." I went inside, but I didn't relax. I sat on the edge of the couch, hands folded, eyes unfocused. At some point, I heard her come in. She took a shower. I heard the water running, the soft thud of shampoo bottles on tile. Then her closet door creaked open, and I could tell by the shuffling that she was changing. It was nearly 9:15 when she walked into the living room. She wasn't wearing pajamas. She wasn't wearing anything that said home or winding down. She wore a navy dress I'd never seen before, form-fitting, backless, with delicate straps that shimmered slightly when she moved. Her hair was down now, curled at the ends. She'd put on lipstick, darker than her usual shade, and a new perfume. Sharp, citrusy, unfamiliar. I stared. "You going somewhere?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "Coffee," she said, checking her bag. "Meeting a friend." "At this hour?" She glanced at me, then away. She had a rough week. "Just needs to talk. It won't be long." "Which friend?" She hesitated, just for a second. "Melissa, from yoga." I didn't say anything else. I just nodded. She grabbed her keys and said, "Don't wait up." I waited anyway. She got home close to midnight. Her heels clicked softly on the tile, and she seemed surprised to find me still up. She gave me a half smile and said, "Didn't expect you to still be awake." "Me neither," I said. She walked past me into the kitchen, dropped her purse on the counter, and opened the fridge. "Want anything?" she asked, like everything was normal. "No, I'm good." She pulled out a bottle of water and leaned against the counter, taking small sips. "How was coffee?" I asked. "Fine," she said. "We just talked." I nodded. "Where's Melissa now?" "She wasn't feeling well. I got her something and then came back." She tossed her water bottle in the bin and started to walk away. That's when I noticed it. 2 coffee cups in the trash. Same brand. Café Lumen. One had E.M. written in blue marker, the other T.M. I stared at them for a long time. The initials hit me like a quiet slap. T.M. Troy Mendez. Could have been anyone. Coincidence. But it wasn't. I knew it. In my gut. When I asked her the next morning, she didn't even flinch. "I picked one up for her," she said. "But she canceled." I tossed it. "Why'd it have T.M. on it?" She paused for the briefest moment. "Typo. Barista probably misheard me." I didn't argue. I didn't question. I just sipped my coffee and said, "Got it." But something in me was shifting. A quiet tilt. Not panic, not yet. Just stillness. The kind you get before a storm, where the air feels thick and charged, but no one's running for shelter because the sky is still blue. From that morning on, I stopped assuming the best. I started noticing the rest. The thing about noticing one lie is that it changes the way you hear everything. After the coffee with Melissa incident, something inside me clicked into a different gear. I didn't confront Emma. I didn't raise my voice or even let on that I was suspicious. But my brain, it didn't stop working. The moment she walked into a room, I watched her differently. I listened for gaps. Not in her words, but in her timing, in her tone. And what I started noticing weren't loud things. They were the kind of things you'd miss if you still trusted someone. It started with her ring. One morning I was making breakfast, just eggs and toast, and Emma walked in wearing a gray sweater and jeans. Her hair was wet from the shower, coffee already in her hand. She sat down across from me and reached for her phone, and I noticed it immediately. She wasn't wearing her wedding ring. I didn't mention it right away. I gave her the benefit of the doubt. We'd been married almost 6 years. People forget sometimes. But later that evening, I brought it up gently. "Did you lose your ring?" I asked as we were cleaning up the dishes. She looked down at her hand like it had just occurred to her. "Oh, no. My finger's been getting irritated lately. I think I'm allergic to the metal or something." She was already turning away when she said it. No pause. No attempt to show me the irritation. I looked at her back and nodded. "Right." The next morning, she left early for a team breakfast meeting. She was dressed too nicely for a breakfast meeting. Hair done, eyeliner sharp, wearing the beige coat she used to save for our date nights. I didn't say anything, just stood at the window and watched her drive off. A few days later, the phone behavior started to shift. Emma had always been a little guarded with her phone. Who isn't? But suddenly it was always face down, always on silent, and always within arm's reach, like she didn't want to miss something. Once, while we were watching a movie, Her phone lit up on the coffee table. The notification said, "New message, Signal." She glanced at me quickly, grabbed it, and turned it off. I asked what Signal was. "It's just a secure chat app," she said. "Our office uses it for sensitive clients." I nodded. "You don't use Slack anymore?" "We do. This is just for some stuff. Internal." That answer didn't sit right. Not because of what she said, but how she said it, like the answer had already been prepared. Like she'd rehearsed it. I started keeping mental notes. What time she left. How long she was gone. What she wore. What mood she came back in. One Tuesday, she told me she was going out with her sister, Megan. "Just wine and catching up," she said, smiling as she pulled on her coat. I didn't question it. But a few hours later, I was scrolling Instagram and saw Megan's story. A boomerang of her feet in the sand. A beach 2 counties away. The timestamp was recent. I stared at it for a while. The caption said, "Finally unplugging Waterwave." I texted Megan, casually, "How's the beach?" She replied 10 minutes later, "Heaven. No signal out here." I stared at that message for a full minute. Then I checked Emma's location. She'd shared it with me months ago after she got lost driving back from a client meeting. I hadn't thought about it since. Her dot was moving, slowly, across a part of town with no restaurants, just hotels. I zoomed in. The blue circle landed right on a building marked the Marlowe Inn. I felt my stomach drop. I didn't text her. I didn't call. I just sat there staring at that blinking dot on the map. Later that night, she came home humming something. A song I didn't recognize, and dropped her heels by the door. "Megan says hi," she said, walking past me into the bathroom. I didn't reply. I just looked at her coat. It smelled like someone else's cologne. The next morning, I asked, "How was Megan's?" She smiled like someone performing happiness. "So good. We needed that." I nodded. "Did you stay long?" "Just a couple hours. Talked about Mom. Drank wine. You know." I sipped my coffee. "You smell like a hotel." She looked up sharply. "Excuse me?" "The Marlowe Inn. I drive past it every day on my commute. They pump some kind of custom citrus wood scent into their lobby. I smelled it on your scarf." Her eyes narrowed just slightly. "What are you implying?" "Nothing," I said. "Just interesting is all." That was the first time she didn't say anything. She just stared at me for a second too long. Then she said, "Well, maybe Megan stayed there and picked it up on me." I let it go. But I started keeping more than mental notes after that. I bought a cheap burner phone. Nothing fancy. Just enough to install a location tracker and take photos. I slipped it under the passenger seat of her car when she went to the grocery store. Then I opened a private Google Drive. Labeled it Work Receipts. Filled it with **TS. Photos. Timestamps. I forwarded myself every Uber receipt she accidentally let land in our shared email. Cross-checked them with calendar invites and weather reports. She said she was at yoga. Her classmate posted a group photo, no Emma. She said she was running errands. Uber drop-off. A wine bar downtown. Each time she gave me a version of her day, I compared it to the data. Quietly, methodically, like a project I didn't want to finish. I didn't confront her. Not once. Because it wasn't about winning an argument anymore. I was building a record. Something she couldn't spin. One afternoon, while she was out, I opened our joint bank account. There were gaps. Withdrawals with no matching purchases. Cash moved to her personal account and then gone. That wouldn't be strange, except Emma never used cash. She hated it. Called it germ paper. I checked our closet next. New clothes. Expensive ones. Brands she used to say were wasteful. Lingerie I'd never seen before. Tags gone. Receipts nowhere. I opened our bedroom drawer and found a small black box with a new bottle of perfume. One I didn't recognize. Floral but dark. Seductive. Not her usual. It was nearly half empty. I sat on the edge of the bed and just stared at the bottle for a long time. That night, she said she was going to spend the evening at her mom's. "She's been feeling lonely," Emma said. "I might just stay the night." I nodded. As soon as she left, I turned on the burner phone's GPS. She didn't go to her mom's. She drove 23 minutes east, to a residential complex. The pin stopped moving in front of a small two-story apartment. She stayed there until nearly 2 a.m. No calls, no texts, no explanation. The next morning I made her coffee. Just like always, she kissed me on the cheek, told me she loved me. Her eyes were soft, convincing. I smiled, said I loved her too. And that was when I really knew that we were done. Not because she lied, not because she was hiding, but because she could look me in the eye, touch my face, and speak a sentence she didn't mean. That kind of lie changes you. After that, I wasn't confused anymore. I was just preparing. It was a Tuesday. Nothing special about it. Just gray skies, light traffic, and a lukewarm cup of office coffee. I remember the silence more than anything. That kind of middle-of-the-week stillness where everyone's just trying to get through the day without making ripples. I came home like always, through the back gate, briefcase in hand, thinking about nothing in particular. Emma wasn't home yet. The house was quiet. Too quiet. No music playing, no food smells from the kitchen. Just still air and the low hum of the fridge. That's when I saw it. An envelope. Plain, white, and sealed. No name. No stamp. Just sitting there on the hood of my car like it had been placed, not dropped. At first, I thought maybe a neighbor had left it. Some HOA thing or a mistake. But when I picked it up, it was heavier than it looked. Inside was a flash drive. That was it. No note. No return address. Just a small black thumb drive, warm from the sun, lying silent in my palm. I didn't plug it in right away. I waited. Emma came home around 6:40 p.m. Same routine. Smile. Keys dropped on the counter. A distracted kiss on the cheek. She asked how my day was, and I said fine. She mentioned picking up groceries. I nodded. She didn't ask any follow-up questions. After dinner, she poured herself a glass of wine and curled up on the couch, scrolling through her phone. I watched her from the kitchen, pretending to clean. She looked so calm, so practiced. If there was guilt under the surface, I couldn't see it. I waited until she went to bed. When I heard the door click shut, I got up, retrieved the flash drive from my coat pocket, and walked into the office. I pulled out an old laptop, one we hadn't used in years. No cloud sync. No automatic backups. Just a dusty hard drive and an outdated OS. Safe. I plugged the drive in. One folder, titled in all caps, Watch. No password. No fluff. Just 12 photos and a subfolder labeled Chats. The first photo was of Emma sitting at a bar. She was laughing. A wine glass in her hand, the neckline of her red blouse familiar. I'd seen it before on the night she said she was at Megan's. Beside her, leaning in too close, was Troy. His hand rested lightly on her leg under the table. The second photo was darker, outside. Parking lot. The two of them kissing beside a car. Her hand on his cheek. Int asterisk mate. Familiar. The timestamp read 10:47 p.m. Same night as the wine with Megan. Next came photos of them entering a hotel together. The same hotel from the Uber receipt. The Marlowe Inn. Their backs were turned, but there was no mistaking who they were. Emma's hand was in his. He was smiling. More followed them at a coffee shop. Her feeding him a bite of cake. Him touching her knee under the table. Different outfits, different days. This wasn't a one-time thing. This wasn't a mistake. This was a routine. A second life. Then I opened the chat folder. They were screensh asterisk ts. Clear ones. Probably taken from a synced device or an email thread. I don't know. But they were real. Every message timestamped. Every emoji, every typo. The first one read, Troy. Last night was perfect. I can't stop thinking about it. Emma. I needed that. I miss you already. Another. Troy. Does he suspect anything? Emma. Not a clue. He's too wrapped up in work. That one hit harder than the rest. Another image showed Emma in the mirror, a selfie. She was in the navy dress she wore on the night of the coffee with Melissa. Her lips parted, expression soft. The caption beneath the photo said, "Thoughts before I head out?" Winking face. Troy's reply was underneath. "God, your K asterisk ling me. Can't wait to unwrap that later." There was more. Some of it too personal to repeat. None of it ambiguous. Every photo, every word, every timestamp. It all lined up. I cross-checked it with the Uber receipts I had saved, the calendar events, the bank statements. It matched. Every single detail. When I was done scrolling, I just sat there. Not angry, not hurt, not yet, just hollow, like my body had gone cold from the inside out. I closed the laptop slowly, disconnected the flash drive, placed it back in the envelope and slid it into the desk drawer beneath a stack of old papers. Then I walked into the bathroom and looked in the mirror. It's hard to explain what I felt. You think it'll be rage. You think you'll break things or cry or collapse onto the floor. But I didn't do any of that. I just stood there. And I realized something. This wasn't the moment everything broke. That had already happened, I just hadn't been looking. This was the moment I stopped hoping it could be fixed. The reflection staring back at me wasn't confused anymore. It wasn't pleading or scared. It was focused. Because now I had proof. Not suspicions. Not maybe. Proof. And proof changes everything. The next morning, I woke up before Emma. I brewed coffee like I always did. Made her cup the way she liked it. Splash of oat milk, pinch of cinnamon. I placed it by the window where she liked to sit. She came down 10 minutes later, hair still wet from the shower, humming to herself. She smiled when she saw the coffee. "You're sweet," she said, taking a sip. "I needed this." I nodded. "Tough day ahead?" She made a face. "Ugh, yes. Client calls and back-to-back meetings. I might be home late." I looked right at her. "Take your time." She didn't blink. Just smiled and kissed my cheek. That was the last normal day we had. Because the man she thought I was, the one who didn't know, didn't suspect, he was gone. Dead in a sense. And in his place was someone who saw clearly. I spent the rest of the day preparing. I made copies of the flash drive contents. One for my lawyer. One for a safe deposit box. One for someone else. Someone I hadn't contacted in a long time. I changed the passwords on my bank accounts. Moved half the money into a new checking account under my name only. Removed her as a beneficiary from my life insurance. Put a freeze on the credit card she used for work expenses. I didn't do it out of spite. I did it because the game had changed. This wasn't a marriage anymore. It was a transaction. And transactions come with ledgers. Later that night, Emma came home tired. She kicked off her shoes, plopped down beside me on the couch, and complained about her boss. I asked a few questions, nodded at the right times, smiled when she did. Inside, I was somewhere else entirely. I was in the hotel parking lot. I was in the chat threads. I was in the hollow space between what she said and what she meant. When she fell asleep beside me, I stared at the ceiling and thought about how a relationship dies long before it's buried. One compromise at a time. One white lie at a time. One ignored instinct at a time. And in that quiet, I knew something for certain. I wasn't going to confront her. I wasn't going to beg for answers. I wasn't going to fight to be chosen. Because I already had the truth. And once you have the truth, the real, bare truth, you don't need a confession. You just need a plan. It's strange how easily routine becomes camouflage. That Thursday morning felt no different than any other. The sun came through the blinds in those long golden stripes Emma always liked. She was already in the kitchen when I walked in, humming to herself as she flipped pancakes. She wore that light blue robe I bought her last Christmas. The one with the loose thread at the sleeve she never bothered to fix. "Morning, sleepyhead," she said, turning with a smile. I kissed her on the temple and poured myself coffee. Nothing in her eyes gave anything away. She moved through the kitchen like someone with nothing to hide. That's the part that used to bother me the most. How calm she was, how natural it all looked, like she believed it. Or maybe she didn't have to believe it. Maybe she just practiced long enough that it felt real to her. But by then, it didn't bother me anymore. Because I wasn't watching for guilt. I was watching the clock. Want to do something this weekend? She asked as she slid a pancake onto my plate. We haven't been to the ranch in a while. That was a test. A distraction. I nodded. Sounds good. She smiled. We could hike. Sit by the fire like old times. Sure. She looked relieved, like she'd just passed a quiz she wasn't sure she studied for. She leaned in, rested her chin on my shoulder and said, You've been quieter lately. I forced a chuckle. Work's been draining. Well, hopefully this weekend resets everything. It would. Just not the way she thought. That afternoon I called a lawyer. Someone discreet. Referred by a friend I hadn't spoken to in over a year. A friend who, as it turned out, had walked a similar road. His advice was simple: document everything. Move fast. Be methodical. Keep emotion out of it. So I did. I started by opening a new bank account in a different institution. Transferred enough money to cover 6 months of living expenses. I stopped using our joint credit card and ordered a new one under my name only. Then I revoked her access to every shared account, insurance, retirement, investments. All of it. Each click felt like a quiet door closing. No slamming. No anger. Just the sound of locks turning. The lawyer sent over a preliminary separation agreement for me to review. Asset division. Living arrangements. Custody not of children but of property. Who would keep the house? Who would take what? What she was entitled to. What she wasn't. It felt like reading a blueprint for demolition. I went through it line by line. Made notes. Asked for clauses. Adjusted the tone. I didn't want war, just closure. Clean break. But I also wasn't going to reward betrayal with convenience. She could have her memories. I keep everything else. In the evenings, I pretended. Dinner like always. Dishes like always. A glass of wine while we watched a show. She'd lean against me on the couch, head on my shoulder, hand resting gently on my knee. I let her. Not out of kindness, out of strategy. It's easier to catch a person in a lie when they think you still believe it. Emma had grown comfortable again. That's what made it possible. One night she asked me, Do you ever think about having kids? It felt like a punch in slow motion. I looked at her carefully. Why do you ask? She shrugged. I don't know. Just thinking about the future, I guess. If we're doing okay again, maybe it's time. That part almost broke me. She was planning a future while erasing the past in secret. I smiled gently. Let's talk about it after the weekend. And she nodded, like that was enough, like I'd given her hope. The next morning I made a checklist. Sell old stocks. Switch phone plan. Cancel joint Amazon account. Redirect mail to a private P.O. box. Move digital files from the shared cloud to an external hard drive. I found the lease agreement she had signed 2 years ago for her old car and used it to confirm the address she had listed as her emergency contact. It wasn't her mother. It wasn't her sister. It was Troy. He was the emergency she planned for. I didn't get angry. I didn't yell. I didn't even confront her. I just added it to the folder, a growing digital archive of who she really was. That night, while she showered, I opened her laptop. Not to snoop, not anymore. Just to finish something. I logged into her email. Her password hadn't changed. I downloaded 3 years of messages. All of them. Not just the ones between her and Troy. Everything. Just in case. Then I logged out, deleted the history, and put it back exactly where she left it. She came out of the bathroom in a towel, smiling. Your turn, she said. I nodded and walked past her without speaking. She didn't notice. On Saturday morning, she packed a bag for the ranch. Folded sweaters. Rolled socks. Brought her hiking boots and that red flannel she only wore for cabin weekends. She buzzed with nervous energy. Feels like we need this, she said as she zipped up the duffel. I nodded. Yeah, a reset. She kissed me on the cheek. I'll go get coffee while you finish packing. She left, keys jingling, humming something light, like everything was normal. I didn't pack. Instead, I pulled out the envelope the lawyer had sent back, now filled with finalized documents. Divorce papers, financial splits, evidence records, a cover letter explaining her rights, her obligations, and what would happen if she contested. Then I went through the house. I removed her access to the smart locks, deleted her fingerprint from the home security system, changed the Wi-Fi password, reset every smart device with her account linked to it. By the time she got home, everything had shifted, quietly, invisibly. She walked in holding 2 coffee cups, smiling. "I got your favorite," she said, handing me the one with caramel drizzle. "Figured we could drink it on the drive." I took the cup, sipped, looked at her. "Actually," I said softly, "we're not going." She blinked. "What? Why not?" "Plans changed." "Since this morning?" I nodded. "Since I found the flash drive." Everything stopped. Her smile disappeared. Her breath caught. She opened her mouth, closed it again. "I don't," she started, but I held up a hand. "There's a folder in my desk drawer. It has the evidence. Photos, chats, timestamps. You can look if you want. Or not." She didn't speak. She just stood there, frozen in place. "I'm not asking for an explanation," I said. "I already have one." Emma took a step back. "Chris, the papers are on the table." I walked to the kitchen, picked up the manila envelope, and set it in front of her. She reached for it like it might burn her. She opened it slowly. Her hands started to shake. I saw the moment she found the clause, the one about her having no access to joint accounts. Her mouth parted slightly, like she wanted to argue. But she didn't, because she knew. She knew it was over. "I thought," she said quietly, barely above a whisper, "I thought we were okay." "We were never okay," I said. "You just got better at pretending." Tears welled in her eyes. "Can't we just—" "No." Her lip trembled. "I didn't mean—" "You meant every choice." I turned away, not because I couldn't face her, because I didn't need to. That night she didn't sleep. She paced the hallway. I heard her steps moving from room to room. I heard the fridge open, the sink run, her voice on the phone. Low, fast, panicked. She was trying to find a way back. But the door was already closed. Not slammed, not locked, just decided. The thing about consequences is they don't always come loud. Sometimes they slip in through the side door, dressed in politeness and planning. Sometimes they arrive in the form of a calm message, sent at the exact right time, by the exact right person. That message came 3 days after I handed Emma the divorce papers. It was from a number I didn't recognize. Just one line. "I think it's time we talk. Lauren." I stared at the screen for a while. Lauren, Troy's wife. We'd met once months ago at a work function. She was soft-spoken, polite, the kind of woman who knew how to read a room without needing to own it. Emma had barely spoken to her that night, introduced me quickly, then pulled me away with some excuse about needing to grab drinks. At the time, I didn't think anything of it. Now, I thought of everything. I replied, "Let's talk. When and where?" She didn't hesitate. "Lorraine Cafe. Friday, 8 p.m. It's where they go." Not went. Go. Present tense. I stared at that word longer than I meant to. When Friday came, Emma was quiet. She moved through the house like someone walking across thin ice. Still made breakfast. Still brushed her hair in the mirror like nothing had changed. But she knew. Even if we hadn't spoken much since the envelope, she knew the temperature had dropped. By 6 p.m., she was dressed. A black dress this time. Gold hoops. Heels. She stood in the doorway like someone who didn't want to be seen lying, but didn't want to tell the truth either. "I have a work thing," she said, not quite meeting my eyes. "Short. I'll be back soon." I just nodded. Of course. She hesitated. Maybe waiting for me to stop her. Maybe hoping I'd ask her to stay. But I didn't. She left without another word. Lauren got there early. I spotted her sitting near the back wall of the cafe, in a corner booth. Hair pulled into a neat ponytail. No makeup. Hands folded on the table like she'd rehearsed this moment 100 times. She looked up when I sat down and said, "I'm sorry it's come to this." I nodded. "Me too." She pulled out a manila folder from her bag. Same kind of folder I'd handed to Emma. Inside were **TS. Receipts. A printed email thread between Troy and one of his friends, boasting about how easy it had been. How Chris is clueless and Emma's basically mine now. I didn't flinch. I just flipped through it slowly. Lauren took a sip of her tea. He thinks he's careful. He's not. There was a printed hotel bill. A key card scan-in from last week. Her name on the reservation. His signature on the minibar receipt. All while Emma had told me she was taking care of her mother. I felt something settle in my chest. Not anger. Confirmation. Lauren leaned forward slightly. They're meeting tonight. Table 12. Back window. I looked over her shoulder. Table 12 was already set. 2 glasses. Candle in the middle. The kind of setup you don't reserve for a project meeting. Lauren looked down at her phone. He texted me 20 minutes ago. Said he was stuck in traffic. She smiled bitterly. He lies so easily now. I nodded slowly. We're not the same people we were a month ago. She tilted her head. What do you want out of this, Chris? The question sat heavy in the air. I answered honestly. Closure. She reached into her bag again and pulled out a small white envelope. It looked nearly identical to the one I had received on my car. This, she said, is for them. What's in it? Photos, the timeline, and a letter. From me. I looked at her. You sure? She nodded. He won't see it coming. She will. At exactly 7:57 p.m. Emma walked in. Lauren and I had already cleared out of the main seating area, moving to a nearby alley with a clear line of sight into the cafe window. I felt ridiculous, like a cliché from a movie, but I didn't care. I needed to see. Emma walked in wearing confidence like perfume. She smiled at the host, smiled at the waitress, walked toward table 12 like it belonged to her. She sat down, crossed her legs, and pulled out her phone. 2 minutes later, Troy arrived. He was casual. Hoodie, slacks, like someone playing at normal. He walked straight to the table, leaned in, kissed her cheek. That one motion was enough to send Lauren stiff. She didn't blink, didn't cry, just stared. They think they're untouchable, she said. I handed her the envelope. Now's the time. Lauren walked inside. I stayed by the alley window, hands in my pockets, heart thudding in my throat. I watched her walk straight to their table. Emma saw her first. She flinched like someone seeing a ghost in daylight. Troy turned, confused. Then she dropped the envelope. Right between them. 3 words, barely audible through the window glass. You're both done. She turned and walked out. I watched Emma's face collapse. Troy's confusion turned to panic as he flipped through the papers. Emma's hands shook as she reached for the letter. I saw her mouth a word. My name, though I couldn't hear it. And then, silence. She didn't cry. She didn't run. She just sat there, staring at nothing. Lauren and I didn't say much after that. We parted at the curb with a nod. Not friends. Not allies. Just 2 people who had been betrayed by the same lie. When I got home, Emma wasn't back yet. She arrived an hour later. Her heels tapped across the wood floor like G**NSH**TS. She didn't say anything. Just set her purse down, walked to the sink, poured herself a glass of water with trembling hands. I sat at the kitchen table, watching. She turned. Eyes red. Makeup gone. But not from tears. From shock. Her voice cracked. Did you know she was going to? Yes, I said. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. She looked smaller than I'd ever seen her. Like someone trying to find a version of herself that might survive the next 5 minutes. I didn't mean for. You did, I said softly. You meant all of it. She sank into the chair across from me, glass still in hand. I don't know who I am anymore. I nodded. That makes 2 of us. She blinked fast. Her voice went quiet. Do you hate me? I didn't answer, because hate still implies effort, and I had none left to give. We sat in silence for a long time. Finally, she said, What now? I stood, walked over to the sink, and rinsed out my cup. Then I looked at her and said the truth, the simplest version of it. Now you live with it. That night she didn't go to bed. She sat on the living room couch, curled under a blanket, staring at the TV without turning it on. I passed by once around 2 a.m. and saw her still there, frozen, not crying, not moving. I didn't offer comfort. I went to bed. The house didn't feel like a home anymore, just a space filled with echoes and reminders. But for the first time in weeks it felt like my space. Because the lies were no longer hiding. They had names, dates, pictures, and witnesses. And the person who kept them, the person who wore them like perfume, was finally sitting in the wreckage she created. I slept deeper than I had in months. The next morning, I left an envelope on the kitchen table. Inside, the final separation agreement, a revised asset list, and notice of revoked financial access. No note, no explanation, just clean, deliberate closure. Emma sat down to read it, her face unreadable at first, until she reached the clause, "No further access to joint finances." That's when her hands began to tremble. She looked up, searching for something, mercy, maybe, but I just pointed to the signature line. She opened her mouth, then closed it. No defense, no speech, just the quiet awareness that she had nothing left to bargain with. That night she didn't sleep. I heard her moving from room to room, stopping in doorways like a stranger in a house that no longer belonged to her. Words tried to form, but never left her mouth. She knew. Everything had already been said. Just not aloud. Just not by me.